In this lesson, we're going to continue looking at our roster setups in Survey Solutions. The remaining two roster types we have to learn about today are what we call fixed rosters. Now, a fixed roster is when we have a definitive list of all the things we want to ask our questions about. Take, for example, crops. We already know all the different types of crops we're going to be asking questions about. Or in today's example, we're going to be looking at agricultural equipment in our example questionnaire. Module D in our questionnaire is what we call a fixed roster. You can see here again, we have across the top all the different questions we want to ask for each iteration. The difference here is that we already know the names of the roster rows and we know how many we're going to have, 16 plus another specifier. So we know the number of rows and their names. This tells us it's a fixed roster. Let's take a look how to set this up in the Designer tool. I'm going to add a new section for Module D. Now for a fixed roster, we don't need to have a source question, so we can add the roster straight away. And I'm going to leave it here on fixed set of items. The roster ID will be D. The name of the roster will be Farm Implements Roster. Now you can see below we have our fixed set of items. This is just like the answer options we have for a single or multi-select question. And again, we can use show strings and copy and paste across all of our items to make it easy. Copy and paste them all together and paste them here. Great, now we have all the rows set up for our fixed roster. And just like the household roster, we can now add questions inside. Now that I've completed all of my questions inside the Farm Implements roster, let's compile and see how it looks on screen. So you can see now in Module D, all of our blue boxes for roster rows are preset for us, ready to enter and complete. And you can see here on the side, Module D can expand and contract to show us all the different rosters. And just like the household roster, when we click inside, we have all the questions to answer about this particular item, the combine harvester. You can see from Module D that this question D2 is kind of a filter question for the remainder of the questions in Module D about each particular item. So we'll need to enter each row and say yes or no whether it's been used or not. We can do this in a little bit more of an efficient way by using a multi-select question to base our roster upon. Basically, we can ask which of the following of these items, combine harvester, paddy harvester, etc., that you've used. Whichever ones that are selected in the multi-select question will then be shown as roster rows. This will save our interviewers a lot of time because they don't have to enter 17 different rows in the roster and say yes or no. Let's see how to set this up in the Designer. So what I'll do is add a new question, but I don't want this question to be inside of my roster. I want it to be outside the roster and before. So we can move it by clicking here and dragging to the top. So this one I'm going to set up as a multi-select question. I'll call it D filter, just for an example. And the question text we can rephrase to something like, which of the following does your household own? Then I'll copy and paste in all the answer options from Excel. Next, I want to change my setup for the roster from a fixed set of items to a multi-select question. And my source question will of course be D_filter, which I've just created. Let's have a test of this version. You can see now, first of all, that Module D is no longer collapsible. We haven't set our rows yet. After our filter question, there is no blue boxes yet. But as I select the items that I own, you can see Combine Harvester appears here, and its roster boxes here ready to complete. You can see this will really save a lot of time for your interviewers if they only own a few of the items rather than entering all 17 rows to specify no. That's all for this lesson. I hope you've enjoyed learning about the 4 different types of roster setups that Survey Solutions can offer us. Join us next time and we're going to jump into some more advanced roster setups.